Hey, Sydney, this is off the record, but did you notice there were like 4 or 5 guys missing out there today? I mean, guys who placed at state last year. I wonder what's going on.
Yeah, I noticed that. A little to the left.
Is it good?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Hi, I'm Alex Martinez, and we're here covering Lincoln High School's wrestling tournament. Before we show you some highlights, let's talk to a few of the wrestlers and get their take on today's action. Hey guys, do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
Sure.
Well, how do you think it went out there today?
Pretty good. We had some really strong wins. We were missing a few guys, so it's hard to say. But I think we did pretty good in all of our weight categories out there.
Yeah, you were missing about 4 or 5 guys. Can you tell me why, though? I mean, that's quite a few.
Yeah, it's a few. I guess they caught something, but they'll be ready by ours tonight.
Well, are you guys worried about catching it? I mean, it sounds kind of contagious.
Nah, no. I mean, people get sick every year. This year's no different. It's all good.
Well, now back to the tournament. There were some pretty tense moments, but you guys kept your composure and did very well.
Yeah.
What do you think helped?
We just kept remembering what Coach Olsen said. No matter what, go for your personal best, and by the end of the season, you'll meet your personal goals.
Well, you sure showed that out there today, guys. Congratulations on what was a great tournament.
Thanks.
Lincoln High rules!
Now let's show you some highlights of our wonderful wrestling team in action. You know, something's going on here, Sydney. I mean, what is it with so many guys getting sick? I'm gonna look into this. I wonder if it's something the rest of us should worry about.
I don't know.
Coach Olsen, I wanted to ask you a couple questions about this season.
Okay, shoot.
Well, first off, how do you think the tournament went?
I was pleased. A lot of our new wrestlers really got a good chance to show off some of their stuff.
Now, do you think that's because a lot of the seasoned wrestlers weren't able to play?
Could be, but I think they would have done a good job no matter what.
Now, Coach, I understand a lot of your players are sick. From the team's perspective, and maybe even from the school, do you think what they caught was contagious and something to worry about?
You know, Alex, I think now would be a really great time for you and the school to really find out what we're dealing with. It's not the flu, but it can be a pretty nasty infection. But it turns out it can also be prevented. I think the best person for you to talk to get some accurate information is the team doctor. I have his card. He'll be pretty pleased to talk to you. He can answer a lot of questions you have.
Thanks, Coach.
You know, Alex, I think your story had just changed from sports to health.
So began my search for the mysterious infection that had taken over our wrestling team. Little did I know where this whole thing would take me. Outside the school. Wait a minute. Rewind. We can start right here to find out a few facts that may help explain things later.
It's a typical day at Lincoln High, a group of friends having their routine lunch. Everything looks the same as it has every other day. But what would happen if we could suddenly have a microscopic vision and see into another world? The world of microorganisms, or microbes. In other words, those nasty little germs your mom always told you about? Examples of these tiny infection-causing organisms include viruses, bacteria, and fungi. This is a lunch crowd who goes unnoticed, many invisible to the naked eye. Little do the students know that they are surrounded and vastly outnumbered by microorganisms. In fact, in the human body alone, there are 10 to 20 times more microbes than there are cells. That adds up to many trillions and trillions of house guests. Microbes need a place to live, and the human body is the perfect host, providing them with food and comfy protection from the outside world. That's why microbes try to invade the body. If some microbes slip through the chinks in the body's armor, say a cut in the skin, then the body responds and seeks out the enemies and tries to destroy them. A certain number of microbes make it through the outer surface defense, the skin, and into deeper body tissues, where the microbes find a warm, moist environment to multiply in. And multiply they do, in a matter of hours. And once again, the body responds with another line of defense. So the battle goes on. The body has an amazing defense system, but the microbes have some pretty sneaky tactics. They'll put up a good fight because they need to eventually leave the body and spread to fresh hosts to continue to survive. Actually, we're not at war with all microbes. In fact, most microbes are good and very useful. Some are famous. There are the fungi that are used to make antibiotics like penicillin, or billions of good bacteria found in cow stomachs which help them digest grass and hay. Other microbes may be less well known and hidden away in our soil or oceans, but are extremely important in the food chain. Without them, entire ecosystems could collapse. But there are others, such as disease-causing viruses and bacteria, or what we call pathogens, which can make us sick when they enter the body. These invaders go for the openings, those parts of our body which are more vulnerable and exposed. Eyes, nose, mouth. Getting in and out, looking for a fresh human host. Okay, let's see what happens this time. Bianca is not feeling well today. In fact, she's got a nasty cold, which is caused by a virus, a pathogen, and she may be running a fever. Gesundheit! Look out, Christy. Bianca just released tens of thousands of droplets. Many will fall to the ground, but the smallest will stay airborne. Now others can breathe in the microbes Bianca has released. I wouldn't do that. George may have just increased his chances of getting sick. Microbes like to hang out in saliva. You could say they have bad taste. And well, you know, Bianca is sick. Okay, Bam, you have a chance to escape, if you don't happen to breathe in the airborne microbes from Bianca's sneeze. Bam! Bam! Yet another tactic of germ warfare. Touch an infected surface, rub your eyes and nose, go ahead, invite the microbes in.
Hi, Alex.
Hi, Doctor.
I'm Dr. O'Queeson. Coach Olson told me you'd be coming by. Is this about the wrestlers?
Right, exactly.
What did Coach Olson tell you?
Well, basically, whatever these guys have, it's some pretty serious stuff that could have actually been prevented. But I'm not sure if the rest of us should worry about it.
Well, the preventative measures that we've been taking with the school, yourself, and others should have this under control. But we want to keep an eye on it because it may spread.
Right. Now, Doctor, I gotta be honest with you. This is kind of freaking me out. I mean, I feel like we're dealing with some dreaded disease from outer Tasmania.
It's actually a common bacterial infection called MRSA that unfortunately is not localized in one particular area, but is here in the school.
It's called MRSA?
Yes, this stands for methicillin-resistant Staph aureus. Staph aureus was primarily an infection that we were seeing in the hospital. The methicillin-resistant Staph aureus, or MRSA, is now spreading into the community. We frequently see it in individuals that are involved in contact sports, like wrestling.
Well, that's why I'm glad I'm on the sidelines. Now, this I'll just say MRSA. You said it was methicillin resistant. What exactly does that mean?
Well, staphylococci are bacteria that used to be treatable with things like simple antibiotics, say penicillin. Over time, the bacteria has acquired the ability to be resistant to these antibiotics, so we have to use different antibiotics to treat these infections. Well, now that these old antibiotics are not working for this new type of infection, we need to be mostly focusing on preventing the infection and identifying these individuals that are infected early so that we can prevent the spread of the infection.
But how do you know if you have MRSA?
Well, MRSA can colonize the surface of the skin and then work its way under the skin, causing inflammation, blisters, boils that can start oozing.
Nice, but how is it that all these wrestlers got it?
Well, initially one player had the infection, and then it spread to one of the other wrestlers who had a small cut in his arm. The organism, our friend MRSA, found its way through the skin, multiplied, and then caused disease. The Staph aureus caused an infection, and the wrestler probably started to notice an inflamed, swollen area, but may have thought about it as a pimple, something that would go away. But the inflamed area was actually a visible sign of a battle going on inside his body between the body's defense system and the invading microbes, in this case bacteria. Later, pus started appearing in the infected area, which is good because this means the body was doing its job to defend itself. In the meantime, the bacteria were not going to retreat. They fought back, and some reached their ultimate battle goal, to survive and eventually leave the body and enter a fresh host. And, in this case, the wrestler who had the staph infection then came in contact with teammates during practices. Through the skin-to-skin contact, sweat on mats, sharing equipment and towels, it spread. And before you knew it, several wrestlers had MRSA. MRSA infections can be quite serious, particularly if they find their way into the bloodstream, where they can cause a very severe infection, giving people fever and getting them very sick, sometimes ending in the hospital.
But that's just evil. How do we stop it?
Hand washing is one way.
Hand washing? Sounds a little bit too easy.
Yep, you'd think so. However, you'd be amazed at how many people don't actually wash their hands after going to the restroom. This facilitates the spread of the bacteria.
Now that doesn't mean I have to police the restroom, right?
No. However, other things help a great deal, like taking a shower, as painful as that may sound. Other things are important, like covering wounds, to prevent the spread from person to person.
Now, doctor, you're surrounded by sick people every day. How is it that you don't get what your patients have, like the flu, for example?
Well, I do several things. Perhaps the most important one is to wash your hands. I wash my hands before coming in contact with any patient. I'm also very careful about not touching my eyes, nose, or mouth after seeing a patient. I also wear gloves when examining patients that may have this infection, in this case, the wrestlers. I want to make sure that I don't spread the infection to other patients.
Do you take showers too?
Yes, occasionally. But the story doesn't end with just hand washing and showers. There's more to this.
It doesn't end?
No, I think this is a very good story for you to bring to your classmates. It's not limited to wrestlers. Have you ever wondered how we find out about diseases? Who decides or determines there is an outbreak or an epidemic? Or who does the research to find out how the body fights against these infections?
No. But you're saying it wouldn't be a bad idea, right?
Correct. I have the names of a couple of people that would be more than happy to talk to you. You know, Alex, I think you've gone beyond the school story with this.
That's the same thing Coach Olson told me. We're going global now.
Hey, if you can swing this, you'll have a job before you're out of high school.
Thanks, doctor. I'll remember to write you from Tasmania.
Great.
This was getting pretty deep. I looked at the paper the doc had given me, and it said epidemiologist? This may take a little bit longer than one day, but I was curious. I figured it was worth looking into.